My name is Selena Civides. My story is one that may look unbelievable, like a makeup because of how unbelievable it may seem. But then, many months ago, I made a decision to keep sharing my experience, regardless of what people may say. For deep down, I know this is real and true and not makeup as such. Why should I bother? One of my friends mentioned that a friend of his had a trailer in Pennsylvania, not far from a small river. He said it would be the perfect spot to spend a few days away, especially since the Slovenian festival was happening nearby that weekend. The way he described it made it sound peaceful and a little different from our usual hangouts. One by one, everyone seemed to like the idea. Soon, plans started to form. We didn't need much for the trip, just a few changes of clothes, some snacks, and whatever we thought we might need for a couple of days in the woods. One of the guys offered to drive. Someone else offered to bring music and snacks. Everyone did their part to make it happen. The drive took a few hours. The roads changed slowly from busy city streets to long stretches of highway, and then to quiet back roads lined with trees. We passed small towns and open fields, with fewer houses the farther we went. The sky was clear, and there was that feeling you get when you know you're leaving the noise behind for something calmer. When we finally arrived, the sun was getting low in the sky. There were tall trees behind it and a path that led to the river nearby. A few old chairs were placed around a fire pit in the yard, and the ground was covered in dry leaves. The first thing I noticed was the silence. It wasn't uncomfortable at first, just different. The kind of silence where you can hear your own footsteps, the wind moving through the trees, and the distant sound of water flowing. It felt calm, almost peaceful. The air was cooler than back home, and it carried a smell of pine, wood, and something else I couldn't quite name. We stepped out, stretched our legs, and started getting settled. Some of us walked down to the river to take a quick look. And the next morning, we woke up early. Someone made coffee, even though not all of us drank it. We just sat outside for a while, watching the trees and listening to the soft sound of the river not too far away. That day, we headed to the Slovenian festival. It wasn't far, just a short drive through quiet roads and small neighborhoods. The festival had a warm, homey feeling. There were people everywhere, smiling, walking around with food in their hands, music playing in the background. Booths were lined up selling homemade crafts, fresh bread, and little souvenirs. We tried traditional foods, things we hadn't tasted before, but instantly liked. There was a band playing folk music, and people danced in small groups near the stage. Kids were running around, older folks sat on benches, and families were talking, laughing, and enjoying the day. It was easy to smile in a place like that. We took photos, played a few games, and just enjoyed being away from everything for a while. Later that evening, back at the trailer, we sat around a fire pit. The fire crackled and popped, and the smoke rose slowly into the sky. We passed around snacks, shared stories from our past, and laughed more than we had in a long time. There were moments when the only sounds were the fire and someone sipping from a drink. We didn't always need to talk. Being there together was enough. By the second day, everything felt familiar. We knew where the plates were in the trailer. We knew how long it took to get to the festival grounds. We had our favorite spots, the chairs around the fire, the stretch of river where we sat and threw small stones into the water. That afternoon, a few of us were standing near the riverbank. The water moved slow and quiet, just like before. We were just talking, nothing serious, when one of the older locals from nearby came walking along the edge. He looked friendly, calm. He stopped for a moment, said hello, and then asked if we were staying in the trailer up the hill. When we told him we were, he nodded slowly. Then, almost like it wasn't even a big deal, he mentioned that years ago, a little girl had drowned in this river. It had happened not far from where we were standing. He didn't go into much detail. He just said it had been a long time ago, but people around still remembered it. Then he smiled gently, wished us a good visit, and walked off down the path. We didn't say anything at first. Later that evening, back at the trailer, we didn't bring it up right away, but everyone seemed a little quieter than the night before. Even the fire didn't seem to crackle as loud. We sat there again, laughing when we could, telling stories again, but something had shifted. The warmth was still there, the kind that comes from being with people you trust. But underneath it, there was something else. A chill we all felt, even if no one said it out loud. Every now and then, one of us would glance toward the river. It wasn't far, but it felt like it had moved farther away somehow, like it was hiding something just under the surface. I remember thinking about the little girl. I didn't know her name or what exactly had happened, but the image stuck in my mind. A child lost in the water that still moved quietly just down the path from where we were sitting. It was hard to forget. That night, as I lay in my sleeping bag, I listened to the wind moving through the trees outside the trailer. I could hear someone snoring softly in the corner, but I stayed awake for a while, thinking about the man's voice and the way he had said it. Like it wasn't just a story, like it was something still living here, somewhere in the quiet. We were getting ready to head out to the festival one more time, and before we left, someone suggested we take a quick photo in front of the trailer. It seemed like a simple idea, just a way to remember the trip. We lined up near the fire pit with the trailer behind us. The trees framed the background, and the river was just barely visible down the hill. Everyone smiled. Someone held up a phone and snapped the photo. Then I took one photo, just me and Ray. She happens to be the other lady in our midst. None of us noticed anything strange in that moment. No weird sound, no sudden gust of wind, no strange feeling. It felt like a regular picture on a regular day. Later that night, while we were all back inside the trailer, scrolling through the photos we had taken during the trip, we saw what shocked of us on the picture myself and Ray took. Someone zoomed in. Right behind us, just off to the side, there was a faint shape. It didn't look like any of us. It was lower down, as if someone much smaller had been standing there. The face was the worst part. You couldn't see it clearly. It was blurry and gray, like fog had crept into the photo just in that one spot. There were no sharp features, just the hint of a face. We checked again. No one had been behind us. We were sure of it. The trees had been empty. The trailer door had been shut. We even looked at the photo before and after, taken at the same spot, but that figure wasn't in them. No one wanted to say what we were all thinking, but we felt it. Something wasn't right. That blurry shape didn't belong, and the more we stared at the photo, the more it felt like that presence was staring back at us. Not clearly, just enough to make your skin crawl. But then that was the beginning of more things to come. That night, the trailer didn't feel as safe as before. Every sound outside seemed louder. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about that face, or what looked like a face, and how it had shown up so quietly. Like it had always been there, waiting for the right moment to be noticed. It was our last night in Pennsylvania. The festival had wrapped up, and we had spent most of the evening by the fire, quiet and tired. Nobody said much about the photo from the day before, but it stayed in our minds. Later that night, a few of us decided to go for a short walk before heading to bed. As we walked down the gravel road that led away from the trailer, that feeling of heaviness came over me. No one was laughing anymore. We all felt it, even if no one said a word. Then the lights started flickering. There weren't many streetlights out there, just a few along the road near the scattered homes farther down. But as we passed under one of them, it flickered once, then again. At first I thought maybe it was just old or loose, but then the next light did the same. One after another, as we walked beneath them, the lights would buzz softly and flicker in and out, like something was messing with them. It wasn't just once. It kept happening, like we were being followed by something we couldn't see. We started walking faster without saying why. Just quick glances at each other, our eyes asking the same question none of us wanted to answer. I could feel something behind us. Not footsteps, not a shadow, but a presence, like someone was following too close. Like if I turned around, something would be standing there. But I didn't turn. None of us did. We just kept moving. When we finally got back to the trailer, we didn't talk. We just went inside and locked the door. The lights inside didn't flicker. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. I lay down that night fully awake. My eyes watched the ceiling, waiting for something to move even though it never did. The others were quiet too. Even the ones who usually snored barely made a sound. When we got back to Ohio, it felt good at first. Being back in our own rooms near people we knew, it gave a sense of comfort. Everything looked the same, but something didn't feel the same. I noticed it first while walking down my own street. It was a clear evening, the sky still holding on to a little bit of light. As I passed under the street lamps near my block, one of them flickered. Not for long, just a soft buzz and a quick blink. I stopped and looked up at it. Then I kept walking. A few steps later, the next light flickered too. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Old wiring, a loose bulb, just one of those things that happen. But then it happened again. Not just once, but several times in different places. And it wasn't just me who noticed. One friend mentioned it casually a few days later, then another. And then we started to realize that wherever we went, especially when we walked alone, the lights would flicker as we passed under them. It didn't happen every time. That's what made it worse. If it had been constant, maybe we could have explained it. But it felt timed, like it knew when we were there, like it was waiting. It was never loud, never dramatic, just that same soft flicker and low buzzing sound. But the feeling behind it, the way our skin would tighten, the way our stomachs would drop, was always the same. The kind of fear that doesn't come from what you see, but from what you know, deep down, without proof. There were other little things too. Random feelings of being watched, dreams that didn't feel like dreams, cold spots in familiar places. We didn't talk about all of it. It was like we were all afraid that speaking it out loud might make it worse. A few mornings after we came back from Pennsylvania, I woke up feeling strange. At first, I couldn't tell what was different. The room looked the same. The sun was coming through the window like it always did. Everything was quiet except for the sound of someone mowing the lawn a few houses down. But when I sat up and stretched, I felt something on the back of my neck. A slight sting, not painful, just enough to notice. I reached back and touched. The skin there felt warm, a little tender. I went to the bathroom mirror and turned around as best as I could. That's when I saw. There was a mark, right at the base of my neck. It wasn't a scratch or a bruise. It wasn't red like a rash or swollen like a bite. It was just there, a faint, pale shape, almost like something had been pressed gently into my skin while I slept. Round but not perfectly shaped, almost like a thumbprint, but bigger, and cold-looking, even though my skin felt warm. I had never seen anything like it. I didn't tell anyone right away. Part of me didn't know how. It felt too strange to explain. And besides, how could I prove it? It wasn't something I could show easily, and I didn't want to sound like I was trying to make a big deal out of something I didn't even understand. But I watched it every day. There wasn't a moment where we said, "It's over." It just ended. No more streetlights blinking when we walked by. No more buzzing sounds. No more strange cold spots or heavy air. Everything returned to normal. Or at least it looked normal. The quiet came back slowly, like mist lifting from the ground. The streetlights stayed steady. The nights no longer carried that invisible weight. It was like whatever had followed us, whatever had been near, had finally let go. But that silence didn't bring peace. It brought questions. I kept thinking about the photo, the face that showed up and didn't belong, the walk beneath the flickering lights, the mark that appeared and faded without explanation, and the story of the girl by the river, how her life ended too soon, how her name was barely remembered, and how, maybe for a little while, she had tried to be seen again. There was no proof, just pieces, small signs, strange feelings, a quiet that had spoken louder than any sound. I didn't forget. None of us did. Even when everything settled down, when the lights stopped acting strange and our days looked normal again, the memory stayed. Not sharp like a knife, but soft like a shadow. Always there, always waiting just behind the edges of thought. Sometimes I wondered if it had been real, if maybe we imagined more than we knew. But then I'd remember how we all saw the same things, felt the same chills, shared the same silence, and deep down, I believed something had happened, something that didn't want to be ignored, something that came and left without saying why. Maybe it found peace, maybe it just moved on, or maybe it's still out there, quiet and unseen, waiting for someone else to notice the signs, waiting for another photo, another walk, another flicker in the dark. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your time and support. It means a lot. If you found this video helpful or inspiring, please give it a like. Share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss future content. Every bit of support helps this channel grow and reach more people. Thanks again, and see you in the next one.